Good morning from our hotel room. It is not as early as I would like, but it is still early. But look at, do you see this behind me?
Technically, it's 3:20 in the morning.
Yeah.
As far as we're concerned.
This is an open window with no screen or anything in our hotel room.
Which seems sketchy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm into it. I ate breakfast hanging over it, but there's quite the ledge. Let me flip you around. So it opens up, and you've got quite a bit, like I said, quite a ledge. So I just sat here. Look at this view. Pretty awesome. We didn't, John saw it last night. I didn't see it until this morning, and now I'm like, well, shoot. Pulling into the station. Not face the
Sit
other way.
rep.
Like,
I apparently faced the video wrong. What are we doing?
we are officially on the road now. We are in our rental car. We got our Dunkin' Donuts.
Dunkin' Donuts.
We're on a road. The road trip has officially started.
Road trip in Boston was okay.
I mean, he didn't like the cannoli, so.
It's just cannolis. They're not that good.
We are on our way to Portsmouth to do a walking tour hosted by the Historical Society.
If that sounds boring, you're probably right.
And then we are going to, I think it's called Flying Pig Pizza, which
Woohoo.
sounds good.
Hooters still exists.
Wow.
That's weird.
And then we are going to a brewery that John picked out.
Also known as the only brewery in Portsmouth.
No,
Fuddruckers.
This was the town that had, like, on their, visitors page, had an entire tab for breweries.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And then after that,
It's like we're going back in time.
are going up Highway 1, and we're going to follow the coastline of Maine out to Bar Harbor, which is the town we're going to be staying in for the next couple of days, and it is home to New England's only national park. So we're going to be doing Acadia National Park tomorrow. That is the what's the word I'm looking for? That is the only national park in New England. So
I feel like you should have been more excited about Fuddruckers. Because that's a fun word to say.
it is a fun word to say, Fuddruckers.
See? Now you can't not say it. Alright. Until next time.
Welcome to Maine. It's very pretty.
It's true.
So pretty.
Lobster rolls.
Pretty.
45. Quintessential Maine.
Guten Abend. We have made it to Bar Harbor, Maine. And it is very tiny and very busy.
So busy.
So busy. Yeah, it was like tricky getting into town because there's just pedestrians everywhere. It was like trying to drive through the UW campus for anyone that's ever had to do that.
You shouldn't drive through the UW campus.
There are
Sounds dangerous.
roads on campus.
We're going. We don't need roads.
What is that a quote from?
Back to the Future. Come on.
I recognize it. Tomorrow we are doing Acadia National Park, which is the only national park in all of New England. So that's exciting. We have tickets to do this drive at 9 in the morning. So We're staying at the motel part of a bed and breakfast, but you can still order breakfast. So our breakfast is getting delivered at 8:15.
We have a bet. We have to pay extra for breakfast.
Yeah, so breakfast is getting delivered at 8:15, and then we have to be at the national park by 9. So it's gonna be a little bit tight.
Shovel some Benedicts.
Yeah, 8:15 was the earliest we could order breakfast. So
apparently they normally used to do it earlier, but it was taped off.
Yeah, it was like they had like orange whiteout that they had used. I didn't know such a thing existed.
It was a yellow piece of tape, but swing is okay.
So, the people in Maine take. The people in Maine take Halloween very seriously. I'm going to insert a photo here of the place across the street from where we're staying. And that is, like, of the places we've seen decorated, like, the least decorated place. We can get pictures.
There's a witch trial scheduled tomorrow. That's how serious they take it.
Yeah, we couldn't get pictures of any of the other places because we just, like, were driving past and we're like, oh, that's cool.
I took one picture.
There was one place that had set up like a graveyard in their front lawn was huge, and they'd made it look like a graveyard with a bunch of tombstones, and then there were like skeletons climbing all over the tombstones.
There was like 50 skeletons.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was
huge.
And then there was another place that had like, or maybe it was the same house. There's like a skeleton climbing a tree, and its head had fallen off, and so he was like catching his head. It was like down below him, and there was another place that had. Was it like zombies or something out front?
Probably. And then there was 2 people dressed up like ghosts.
Just like walking around.
Just hanging out.
It is October 15th, I think.
Different time zone. It's October 16th.
So, like, Halloween is still weeks away. It's not like we were out on Halloween and people were out, like, trick-or-treating or anything.
It's true.
But yeah, like, Halloween is a big deal out here, apparently. And yesterday we went to the Samuel Adams tap room, and they had a countdown, like, how many days until Halloween, which is funny. I've never seen that before. So, I'm tired. This is a much better angle, but tires my arm out real fast.
Yep.
We sat outside for dinner, and it was cold. So, it's like 50 degrees outside, so
warm.
I bought this hat at Leavenworth back in the spring, and this is the first time I've actually gotten to wear it because it got warm like right after I bought it. It's so soft. I love it. So
it's very soft. Yeah, I think part of the money went to charity or something.
Yes, it did. I for fresh water for places that don't have it. I think.
I don't remember.
I think
some charitable organization. And then they tried to get us to buy a bunch of wine, and we were like, nah.
Yeah, so that's a total other story. Anyway, I feel like there was a story we were going to tell.
You definitely avoided some deer today. So that
I did.
Cool.
The road, we were going up a coastal highway, so it's like 50 miles an hour just through.
She was going 85.
Yeah.
She was going back in time.
No, it was 55. It was 55 miles an hour, so I'm going like 59 or something. And it's dark out, and two adolescent deer just standing in the middle of the road. So, came to a stop. We did not get close to hitting them. I mean, like,
she was on point.
Yeah.
Like a boss.
And then a few minutes later, a couple miles down the road, 2 more deer standing on the side of the road, but not in the roadway.
They
were
almost jaywalking.
Yeah. So I spent the last like hour of our trip like.
It was weird.
Yeah.
She wasn't even driving.
So yesterday, when we got to the airport, trying to find our way to the subway was ridiculous. There are like no signs for anything anywhere, and you get on this bus. They don't tell you. There's no announcements for the stops. They just pull over, and you're like, so is this where I get off for this thing, or like no, yes, and so we get to where there's the stop for the subway, and we are trying to figure out how to buy tickets. There's these like ticket kiosks, and the first thing it asks you is,
we bought the wrong tickets.
The first thing it asks you is how many zones, and we're like, we don't know.
What's a zone?
And they have a huge map of all of the subway lines there, and we're like, okay, well, here's the stop we're at, and here's the stop we're going to. It's only 2 stops away, but nowhere on the map do they have the zones delineated. So we're like, So I was like, well, when I GPSed it, it said the fare was going to be $2.40. So just find the one that's $2.40, which was
Second
the
attempt.
first, like the lowest number of zones. So we click it, and we buy the tickets, and we try to scan them to get through the little doorways to get actually to the platform. And every time we scan it, it's like, Meh. And we ended up, like, this lady was, like, hanging out in the, like, ticket buying area. She's trying to help us get through. And finally, I just followed a guy in because the doors, like, he went through and the door just, like, hung out open. And I was like, I shimmied through. And then when it's the doors that you go through to get to the platform are also the exit from the other side. So if you walk up to them from inside, they just open. So I just walked up and opened the door, and then John walked through because we were like, we have tickets, we've paid, there's nobody here to help us. So like, yeah. So apparently, the entire area that we were in, like everything that was accessible from where we are, was considered commuter area, not a zone area.
Other way around. The zone area is the commuter thing.
No, it was a commuter ticket, not a zoned ticket. Because it's all within the commuter part, which is like the inner part. So like the zones weren't even accessible from where we were. So it was not allowing us to tap our ticket because it was like for a zone that we couldn't even get to. So, but like when you go to buy a ticket, it's like how many zones? Despite the fact that that's not applicable to anything accessible from where we were. So we're trying to, like, all day yesterday, we're like, sure hope we can get on the subway tomorrow, because otherwise we have no way of getting to our rental car. So then we get to the airport, we go to get our rental car, and there's like a kiosk where it's like, log in here to pick up your rental car. And so you insert your driver's license and it scans it, and it's like, you don't have a rental, like there's no reservation for you. I'm like, I have the reservation printed in my hand. So I'm like, okay, let's just go to the counter. So we get to the counter and the guy's like, looks at it, looks at me, he looks at it, types some on his computer. He's like, do you work for Enterprise? Like, my sister does. Sorry, baby. Because it was booked through, like, their discount thing. And I'm like, I hope this isn't a problem. And then he's like, he looks at it, he looks at me, and he's like, is it one way? And our rental is one way, but I got confused because I was like, our trip in general is round trip. Like, we're going home. And then I realized, like, what he was asking. And I'm like, oh, yeah, we are not bringing it back here. And he's like, oh, you got to go somewhere else. So you literally go up to the garage, and they just give you a car. And then as you're driving out of the garage in the car,
super weird,
they process your stuff.
You have the car before you've actually done anything.
Like, we get up to where they're giving out cars, and she's like, well, what tier car did you order? So I tell her, and she just, like, goes and gets one. I'm like, I guess we could have said I mean, like, they probably wouldn't have let us leave the garage, but yeah, I could have said anything. Because she had no point.
A Maserati.
Yeah, at no point did she, like, look at our paperwork or anything. So then, where you would normally just, like, pay to leave the garage, they, like, take your paperwork and process it. Which is, like, there's just I mean, like, it works, but it was such a super weird way of doing it. And I guess it was, like, specific to the one-way rentals. And I'm like, I don't know why this makes a difference, but okay.
It's weird.
Yeah, so, but, you have the rental car now. All of the stuff I was, like, legitimately worried about has been taken care of now. Like, the subway was a confusing mess. It's funny, we went to get out on this morning, and literally it didn't even give us an option for zones.
Because I picked a different option.
Oh.
Because I knew the zone was wrong.
Got it. But yeah, no, there's literally, we had to look it up online for a definition of, like, what the zones were. And even then, you can't actually find anything that's like, here's this zone, here's this zone, here's this zone. It's literally just, like, you type in where you're starting and where you're ending, and it tells you, like, oh, that's 2 zones. Okay, cool. Like, and then I had to read a whole thing of the description of, like, how it works. And then it's like, if you're in downtown Boston, you're like inside the inner circle where they don't do zones. It's just like the commuter rail is what they call it. It would have been super nice for like literally any information about this where we were buying tickets at the airport where people are clearly not from the area. So, rant over. This is 11 and a half minutes long. Oh my gosh. I might cut some of this out. Nobody needs. Believe it or
We didn't
not,
even talk about anything we did today.
I talked about us getting in the rental car
That's true.
and
That was only step
taking
one
the
of day.
subway.
We had some mediocre fish and chips. Some pretty good lobster mac and cheese. We found out the other place we wanted to go to needed reservations, and they were all booked up.
Despite the fact that there's literally a sandwich board sign outside that says walk-ins welcome. We waited in line for like, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, something like that, to put our names on the list for him to be like, oh, if you don't have a reservation, like, nope.
Be gone.
Yeah. I'm like, it says walk-ins welcome outside.
Learn about
But
Portsmouth and how terrible the people in Portsmouth were in the past.
yeah. We did a walking tour in Portsmouth, and the lady, it's funny, she glossed over some stuff where you're like, she's obviously glossing over things, and then other things she was like
This
specifically
dude killed his brother to marry his sister-in-law, which is weird.
Yeah, so she's like,
He committed suicide.
yeah, she's like, he married his brother's widow after his brother committed suicide under very suspicious circumstances. So he, like, kills his brother to marry his sister-in-law, but then he builds himself this giant house.
Complete with a bust of his own face.
Yeah.
On the outside.
And he turns it into a hotel. So he's got, like, an entire floor to himself. And it has, like, a separate apartment. But his wife lives in a house that's, like, in a neighboring town.
And he also built a theater for his burlesque dancer friends.
Yeah. He had a lady friend who was a burlesque dancer, but didn't have anywhere to do her burlesque show. So he literally like built
as it
an
were.
entire dance hall for her. And I was like, is this the lady that lived in the apartment at the hotel?
Connecting the dots.
Yeah.
And now it's apparently where they premiere Da Vinci Code movies. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, she said that apparently, like, Dan Brown, who wrote the Da Vinci Code and that whole series, is a big fan of the town. So, or I don't know if it's the town or the theater specifically. So every time a movie of his premieres, they have, like, a whole thing where they, like, roll out the red carpet and people come in, like, dressed in tuxes and, like, limos drop them off. It's, like, a whole thing. Just very random. This place looked tiny. Of course, I didn't take any pictures. 0 pictures. No pictures.
No pictures. I took a picture of that sign, which I already shared with the siblings, and it was funny.
Yeah. So it was outside of a cheesemonger, and I'll insert it here. It was funny.
Everyone's gonna watch this video.
Everybody, like, my parents might watch this. You don't know.
I know.
Also,
But she'll insert it.
last night we said that we were gonna watch we were watching the Mariners game. Spoiler: we tapped out at the end of the 14th inning because it was time for bed. It was like,
Glad we did, because they
like
lost anyway.
Yeah, an hour past when we were planning on going to bed, and we were like, thank gosh, because it was like 4 more innings for them to lose. So
We don't really care. We don't like sports balls that much.
We don't like sports balls that much.
It was on, so I watched Star Trek tonight.
Yeah.
It was on.
Did the episode end?
Yeah, it's over now.
I wanted to see how it ended.
Spoiler alert, they didn't stay de-evolved. They got back to normal. And Spot turned back into a kitten.
Yeah, there was some sort of disease that was causing them to de-evolve into proto-humans. And Spot literally turned into a chameleon. So.
Like you do.
Like you do. All right. You guys don't care. This is ridiculous.
Okay, bye!
Goodbye!